This segment is sponsored by Corebridge Financial. Gain access to a comprehensive life insurance product portfolio, actionable insights, and proven tools to help you deliver solutions for every stage of life. From one of the largest and most established U.S. life insurance providers. Visit CorebridgeFinancial.com.
All right, we are ready now for our segment with Corebridge Financial. I get to introduce two very special guests today. First of all, Jason Kestler, Head of Sales at Market Synergy Group. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, great to be here, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Jason wrote an article for the March-April edition of the Aspire magazine called Faster, Simpler Sales, all about annuities, and it's excellent. I recommend you read it. And next up, from Corebridge Financial, we have Eric Taylor, Senior Vice President of Distribution for Individual Annuities. Welcome to you, Eric.
Thank you, Chuck. It's great to be with you.
I'm going to start this off by just talking about annuities. You know, they've really been evolving a lot over the last several years. Tremendous growth, really moving from a peripheral niche to a more of a strategic cornerstone for the financial planning process. So, Jason, let's go off the page. In your article, you talk about a great term called retirement income architecture. So I wanted to just say a few words about that.
One of the big shifts that's happening in retirement planning right now is this conversation is moving away from simply accumulating assets and more toward designing income. The first step that advisors typically start with is understanding when to start Social Security, when to turn that income on. Then the next step is typically understanding clients' essential expenses, things like housing, healthcare, the core things that we all need to cover our expenses every month. And then if Social Security covers all of that, great. But if not, there's typically a gap. And it's that gap that becomes the planning challenge. And that's really where these, guaranteed income solutions like annuities can play a key role in helping to fill that gap by creating a predictable income that complements Social Security.
I wanted to just have Eric jump in here and talk about a little more specifically what is the age range for FAs to be bringing in annuities into the conversation with their clients?
So really where we see the optimal time where you are, really optimizing what the solution can do for you in your own retirement plan, and to give yourself the most optionality based on what happens is maybe in that 55-year-old range, maybe 10 years ahead of that traditional retirement age. That really gives you the flexibility to take advantage of what the product can do for your portfolio in the long term, as far as integrating it and having a guaranteed cash flow that you can plan around at a future date. But it also gives you the options to be able to pivot if something changes down the road.
That sounds good. And Jason, kind of taking a little bit further, because your article talks about RILAs, which I found to be very interesting. It's a newer product, different concept that's been around now, I guess, I'm thinking 5-10 years, but I could be wrong about that. You can correct me. But with the RILAs coming into be, does that allow you to, or does that open up the door to having an annuity conversation earlier in the client's life?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Eric said, these conversations are starting earlier, not because the clients are ready to turn income on, because they're thinking more seriously about risk and longer term outcomes. And that's really where RILAs have been interesting in attracting younger clientele, because they allow clients to stay engaged in the markets while introducing defined risk parameters through features like buffers and floors that offer them some protection.
With every type of product, there's going to be defined risk, and it's important for the FAs to really, understand the client's needs. And in this case, with certainly older clients, they want to still be in the market, but they also want it not to be so volatile at the later stages when they're getting close to retirement. Talk to me about risk management from that perspective.
So for example, is sequence of returns risk. Is I get closer to my retirement date, the impact of a significant market downturn that coincides when I am planning on taking that leave from my work and starting that retirement income journey. That can have a substantial impact if you are overexposed to assets that really might not be able to recover fast enough once you start withdrawing from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Eric said, most clients aren't looking to exit the market. They simply want to avoid experiencing a full, impact of a market downturn. So I describe it as redefining how they participate in the market rather than stepping away from it. The goal is not to eliminate volatility. The goal is to actually just manage the level of volatility that the client experiences.
Next subject, kind of the lightning round here. I think I'll have Jason talk first about this subject, but there's guarantees with many of these products, right? For principal protection, lifetime income, but there's a lot of trade-offs. The advisor has to set expectations carefully, and there are some client misconceptions. That's a lot, but wanted to have you talk a little bit about that from a guarantee standpoint.
Yeah, we could fill a whole hour here. The reality is setting proper expectations might be the single most important thing that an advisor does with their client. For example, a lot of people assume annuities completely lock up their money, but we all know that in reality, most contracts allow penalty-free withdrawals within certain parameters. Another misconception is about the guarantees that are built into annuities. But it's features like caps and par rates and surrender schedules. They all exist because they support the guarantees that are built into the product. And when I talk to advisors, I encourage them to frame these as design features rather than restrictions. They're part of the structure that allows the annuity to deliver the outcomes like income predictability, and principal protection.
Great conversation, guys. Eric, thank you, and Corbridge Financial for being a sponsor of Aspire and Off the Page.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks again.
Jason, thank you for writing the article, and hope you have a good year at Markets Energy Group.
Thanks so much. This has been a lot of fun.
You can find Jason's article on page 30 of the March-April edition of Aspire magazine. Link in the description.